Hello everyone! I just realized that my mic is 5 miles away from me, so let me pull it a little bit closer. But hello! Welcome to Much Ado About Gaming. My name is Jessa Blackthorne. Thank you so much for tuning in on this beautiful Tuesday, the 1st of February. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We have a great show for you. I'm really excited about it. But before we get started, as always, a couple of reminders. This is Much Ado About Gaming. It is the WizKids Board Game Showcase. That means on this show, we talk about WizKids board games. Now, unfortunately, what that means is that if you have any questions about board games during the show, you can absolutely ask those in the chat. I'm watching the chat. I'm here. I'm live. But if you have questions about our other product lines, so HeroClix, Dice Masters, Star Trek Attack Wing, RPG, anything like that, what you'll want to do is go to WizKids social media. That's going to be the best place to get the most up-to-date information about those product lines. And you could also go to WizKids.com. That's another great place to get updated information. We had a big RPG release today, so you should go to WizKids.com and check that out. If you do have questions about RPG or you're interested in RPG, on Wednesdays, so tomorrow, I also host Model Behavior, which is the WizKids RPG Showcase. We're going to be showing off some really amazing unpainted miniatures tomorrow. I'm excited to show those off. So definitely tune in. That's going to be tomorrow, Wednesday at noon, right here on WizKids streaming video platforms. So depending on where you're watching, it'll be streamed on YouTube, it'll be streamed on Twitch, it'll be streamed on Facebook. So you can go to any of those places and watch Model Behavior just like you're watching Much Ado About Gaming now. But without further ado, let's get into this exciting show. I am so excited for this. So today what we are doing is we are talking about the top 5 soloable WizKids games. Now, what does that mean? We talk about board games all the time. What does it mean if a board game is soloable? So, what I mean in this case is that all of the games I'm going to be talking about today, there's 5 great ones I picked out. It's not they aren't the only 5, but they're the 5 I chose today. And those games have a built-in solo mode. So, you know, people love playing board games with friends. It's a lot of fun. Some people prefer playing board games solo, or some people, you know, they decide not to go out for the evening, don't want to have anyone over, they just kind of want to play a board game. These games all have great options for that, and that's what we're really highlighting today. Now, the games I'm going to talk about aren't going to be in any particular order. It's not like a ranked list or anything. It's just the 5 I picked out that I thought were really great solo modes and really great solo options for games. I love all these games. I think they're all fantastic, so I'm really excited to get talking about them. As a reminder, if you have any questions during the show, you can leave them in the chat. If you can, please try to type question in all caps. That way I notice it. I'm watching the chat through the corner of my eye, but I don't want to miss a question if you have it. And so if you type question in all caps, that's going to be much easier for me to spot while I am presenting this show. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about these games. I'm not just going to say, oh, this game has a solo mode, this game has a solo mode. We are going to talk a little bit about each game. And we're going to actually get started right now, and we are going to get started with probably what is one of the most iconic WizKids games, I would say. One of the most popular ones, and that is, of course, Mage Knight Ultimate Edition. So, Mage Knight Ultimate Edition is really, really well-known, very popular. Considered by many to be one of the best board games of all time. I think it's fantastic. It is a RPG. It's sort of like an RPG in a box, so it's got a lot of really cool stuff going on. So it combines elements of RPGs, deck building, as well as traditional board games. But what it also does is it develops the lore of the Mage Knight universe. So Mage Knight was a game long before the board game came out. It was a tabletop game using the click style system, which you might know from HeroClix. And the board game kind of built on that. So that's what's really cool about it. And the Ultimate Edition is actually the original Mage Knight board game, as well as all of the expansions to the Mage Knight board game, plus 5 all-new cards. So it's really, it's the perfect encapsulation of the Mage Knight, all the Mage Knight board game releases. There have been several expansions to the game. There are 3 expansions, as well as these new cards. So we really tried to do something exciting and interesting with this, and Mage Knight is well loved. The expansions featured are, of course, the Lost Legion, Krang, and Shades of Tesla. If you have the Mage Knight game and you have all the expansions already, you can just order the 5-card expansion. You can order that from the WizKids online store, shop.wizkids.com. That way you still have a complete set of Mage Knight. However, I do recommend getting the Ultimate Edition because the components in it are really nice. It's really well done. But I'm sure you're saying, okay, yes, I'm hearing about Mage Knight. I love Mage Knight. How is Mage Knight Soloable? So, in Mage Knight, in the gameplay, this is it's kind of a complex game, so, if you're into really kind of meaty games that do a lot of different things and have a lot of thinking going on, this is a great game for that. And when you're playing Mage Knight, you're playing one of 11 total scenarios. So there is a scenario book that comes with the game. It's in the back of the rule book, and it just kind of tells you about all of the different scenarios, which are kind of like your options with which to play your game. So at the beginning of your gameplay, you choose a scenario from the scenario book. The scenarios have different, rules, different goals. And then from there, what you do is you play that out. You can also use their variant rules that you can also optionally use if you choose. So the game comes with 11 total scenarios. However, what's really cool is that 2 of the scenarios are designed with solo in mind. So the first one is called First Reconnaissance. It's kind of the beginner Mage Knight scenario. And that one has a solo variant to it. So it gives you the option to play it solo. However, there is also another scenario called Solo Conquest, sorry. The side of my notes were cut off. And that one is designed specifically as a solo scenario. So it has great opportunities to play solo. It really has a lot of opportunity to enjoy solo play. Especially because a lot of solo games, for some people, tend to be maybe often very much... That was a sentence. They often tend to be a little bit lighter. There are some fantastic crunchier solo games, but what I'm saying is that Mage Knight is kind of such a crunchy game, and having a solo mode for something so crunchy is just a lot of fun and really exciting for the solo player. There's also, when you're playing in solo for Mage Knight, there's also an automated dummy player, so that's kind of it's kind of to help balance the game. It helps prevent things like metagaming. It's really interesting. So, Mage Knight Ultimate Edition, like I said, has so you can do this in the Mage Knight base game too, but in Ultimate Edition as well. It plays 1 to 5, so it does have solo modes. Like I said, you can read about the solo modes in the rulebook. If you head to WizKids.com, you can read the rulebook right there and read about the solo scenarios. The game plays in a bit over an hour, depending on how you're playing. And the whole box, which is a very, very large box, I will say it is massive, there's so many components, is $124.99. So, great price point. I think this says 20, yeah. Great price point. Fantastic game. Considered one of the icons of contemporary board games. They really have Vlada, whose last name I can still not pronounce, working on it. Vlada did a fantastic job with this game. For those of you maybe who aren't familiar, Vlada is also the designer of some very popular other games from other publishers. One of Vlada's more well-known games is a game called Codenames, which is, again, not from WizKids, but Vlada's background in design is so diverse, and Mage Knight is really one of the best. So that's Mage Knight Ultimate Edition. Next, we are going to move on to another great game that's also very well-known, very popular, very well-loved, and that is Dungeons & Dragons, the Adventure System board game series. Now, specifically, you can see here, I'm calling out the Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage games. However, This is kind of the same for all of the adventure system games. I just picked this one because it is the most recent of the base games to release. So the D&D adventure system board games basically recreate the feel of a D&D campaign with without a DM and with an actual built-in just board game setup. So it's a really great way for people who maybe are interested in D&D but can't find someone to DM for them and want to kind of get that kind of feel or that experience, or really are interested in the lore but prefer a more traditional board game format. They're really great games. And so the really cool thing about these games is that they're compatible with any one of the other adventure system games. So you can combine them in a zillion different ways. It's really cool. There are so many of these. We did just release an expansion as well for the Adventure System series last year that was called Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and that's really, really cool as well, so you could check that out. You do need a base game to play with that, though. The newest base game is the Waterdeep Dungeon of the Bad Mage board game that you're seeing next to me, but there are so many different options. Now, you can probably see the price point next to me. $79.99 to $159.99, and that does seem like a huge leap, but what that is that you have kind of two options, and again, this price point is specifically for Mad Mage, so specifically for the one we're talking about. The price points might be slightly different for other ones or for the expansion, but the difference in prices is that there's two editions here. There's the standard edition and the premium edition. The standard edition comes with unpainted miniatures, whereas the premium edition comes with pre-painted miniatures. So it depends on, are you a mini painter, and you like to paint your own minis, or do you not like painted minis? Then the standard edition is probably the better edition for you. That's $79.99. If you are someone who really enjoys having pre-painted minis but you don't want to paint them yourself, you can get the premium edition, which is $159.99. And in terms of the number of miniatures that you get, it comes with 43 miniatures. So it's a lot of miniatures, and that's kind of why it drives the price point up so much, is because each of the miniatures has to be painted in the premium edition. So the way this game works is that players each kind of pick a hero, and then they play through the cooperative campaign determined by the game itself. So the game kind of DMs for you is a good way to talk about it. So you and, if you're playing with more than one person, your fellow heroes work as a team to succeed in the adventures. The lore for this is the lore of Halaster Blackcloak, the Mad Mage. You start the game in the Yawning Portal, which is, of course, an inn that resides over Undermountain that you are going to explore in this game. So you can play this as a solo player, and the game will kind of balance for that, just because of the way it's designed. One thing to keep in mind is that the way the game works, sometimes the rules may contradict the rule book, and in that case you always go off of the rules, or rather you always go off of like the rules on the cards or the powers or the monsters. Go off of those as opposed to referring to the rulebook. That's something that I think is a little bit challenging for a lot of people. I know I'm a person who, like, when I'm playing a game like this, I'm like holding the rulebook, clutching it, and I'm reading it every page just to try and wrap my head around everything. But this is one of those games where if it contradicts the rulebook, you go with whatever the game is saying, not whatever the rulebook is saying. And that's partially as well because, like I said, the game is kind of, you can integrate the other adventure system games with it, so it's something to keep in mind. So there's a number of different heroes to choose from in the D&D adventure system games. They're all unique, they all have special abilities, different character classes, different backgrounds. It's really cool. So this one is really great if you want the Dungeons & Dragons experience in a board game. This is perfect if you're interested in the D&D lore. It's fabulous. I highly, highly recommend it. Ministry of Dice, thank you so much for tuning in. No worries on running late. We are so glad you're here watching. I hope that you're enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun talking about it. So that is Dungeons & Dragons Adventure System board game series. The newest one being Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage for the base game, and Ghosts of Saltmarsh is an expansion you can also pick up. There are other ones, including Tomb of Annihilation and Temple of Elemental Evil, so check those out as well. They are all fabulous, and you can play them all together and kind of mix and match, which I think is really fun. And some of the minis in Mad Mage specifically are so cool. They have these zombie beholders that are amazing. So check it out. 1 to 5 players. It plays in over an hour for ages 14 and up, and it's, like I said, $79.99 to $159.99. Next, we are going to move on to another game that is very popular, another game that a lot of people know and love from WizKids. I certainly love it. We talk about it on this show at least once a month, I feel like, at this point. And I love it every time. And that is, of course, Super Skill Pinball 4K. Now, this game is so much fun. It is a roll and write game. It is miles away from the other two games we talked about in terms of its theme and its vibe. It is a game that recreates the feel of playing pinball in an arcade on your game table. So the game is super easy to learn and so cool. So the way you play the game is that you have these boards that represent pinball tables, like you can kind of see next to me, and you roll your dice, and you're moving your pinball down the board as you're rolling your dice, based on the die roll results. So you roll 2 dice at the beginning of each round, and then you pick which roll you're going to use. Now, if you were playing with more than one player, each player could pick which result they want to use. They don't have to pick the same results. They can pick whichever result they want, but the 2 dice are a communal roll. But if you're playing solo, it's just you picking which result that you would like to use. You can score really, really high in this game. So there's bonuses, there's really a lot of cool stuff. There is, of course, an expansion for Super Skill Pinball also out, or not an expansion, excuse me. There is a second game for Super Skill Pinball, I don't know why I said expansion. It's called Super Skill Pinball Ramp It Up. That came out a few months ago. And that is also fabulous. That one includes ramps and includes a lot of other really interesting new mechanics. But today we are talking about 4K, of course, the original, the first one. There are 4 tables with Super Skill Pinball 4K. There are Carnival, Cyber Hack, Dance Fever, and Dragon Slayer. And they all kind of have different special rules that you have to learn and different ways that you can score. So really each table feels very distinct, very unique. This is a lot of fun. I've played this several times. If you look, a couple weeks ago, I played with the designer, Jeff Engelstein. We released a free table for Christmas called 'Twas the Night, and I played that on the show. You can check that out. It was so cool, so fun. But it's a great game. If you want to check the game out, if you're not sure, if you're like, I don't know if this is, the feel that I want, there are 2 free print and play tables from this game available on WizKids.com. The first one is a print and play of Carnival, which is the first table. It is a great table if you're trying to learn the game and understand all the mechanics. And there's also a free print and play of the Cyber Hack table, which is a little bit more complex, but it's not so difficult that it's going to be hard to understand. It just has a little bit more going on. So they're both great examples of this game. And the game's at a really great price point. It's $24.99. The components are great. The pinball tables are laminated, and the markers that come with it are really nice, so it's easy to draw on and erase. It's really an ideal kind of roll and write experience. And for a solo player, it's a lot of fun. I could play it by myself for hours. I could totally get lost in this game. I've played it a bunch of times. Like I said, I really enjoy it every single time. So I highly recommend Super Skill Pinball 4K. It is 1 to 4 players, so you can play with multiple copies if you want more, but we are mainly talking about solo today, and it's really a great solo experience. It's $24.99, so it's a good price point, and it plays in about 30 minutes. It can play for longer if you're playing really, really, really well. You can drive that score up and just play for much longer, but it all depends on how you're playing. So definitely check this out. It features all the hallmarks of pinball, so it features tilting, It features the bumpers, flippers, the whole 9 yards, and it is so much fun. So that is Super Skill Pinball. Oh, and I should also mention, we just announced another version of Super Skill Pinball, and that is Star Trek Super Skill Pinball. So that's also really exciting and something we are really thrilled about, and that's going to feature 4 tables that are fantastic as well. So there are lots of Super Skill Pinball things out there, and definitely this is a great game to fall in love with and play on just a night in. So definitely check it out. So the next game, this next game is actually, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, I just want to double check before I say this. Yeah, so this is one of the first games that came out. I was right about I was trying to figure out the timing of this. This game actually was one of the first games I ever worked on at WizKids. You know, long before this show started, just kind of coming into WizKids, this game is fantastic. And this is a game called Maidens Quest. So this one's really unique in that it is solo in the box. So it's designed as a solo game, but you can play it with other people. So each copy of the game is kind of one solo thing. So the way this game works is that you are a maiden trying to escape from her tower because she's tired of waiting to be rescued. And the cool thing about this game is you play it all in your hand. And I remember when this game came out, I was playing it a ton. I flew out to a trade show for the industry at one point. I was playing it on the plane, and people were asking me lots of questions about it. It's such a fun game. So you have you build a deck of cards in your hand for the maiden that you choose. The maidens all kind of have different abilities. You set up the deck. There's different obstacles, and depending on whatever card is in front in your hand, you have to fight those obstacles using the items in your hand. So it's a really interesting game. So you're basically just, I'm having a hard time showing this, doing this, and that's kind of how you're playing the game in terms of just the experience. But the solo way to play this game is all about really figuring out your long-term strategy, because you're battling enemies as you're making your way through. So you're trying to preserve your health and trying to preserve the items that you need to be able to escape from the tower. This is a game where, even though it comes as a solo game, you can play it competitively or in co-op with other people who have Maidens Quest. So if you run into someone who has it, or your friend has it, you can immediately play it together, and just you could help each other escape, even just for 1 or 2 turns. And that's what's really cool about it. It's a game that you can play for 2 minutes, put it in your pocket, and then continue right where you left off. And it's not going to be a situation where you go, oh gosh, I don't remember what I was doing. The way the game is designed, it allows you to pick up and play whenever you want. I could literally go grab my copy of it that I probably haven't played in a year right now, and probably just pick up right where I left off in my gameplay a year ago. And I really think that's something that's really interesting and unique. The cards are on the smaller side to make it easier to hold in your hands and transport. You also, one of the things that you will do in the game is you're trying to get the right items in your hand to defeat, ultimately, your captor. And the captor's difficulty, they have different difficulties, and you need to have the right items in your hand to defeat them. So you work your way through the deck trying to have those items available. There's also saviors who can help you and grant you extra bonuses, and treasure that you collect that can help add to your hand in the future. So this game is really, I feel like this one's really underrated. It's a lot of fun. It's something that is so unique for a solo game, and it's so interesting to have something that you can just toss in your pocket, take it out, wait in line, at the grocery store or something, or wait in line at the coffee shop, I guess, and just play a couple rounds, and then, oh, it's my turn, I have to go, put it away, and then pick it up later. That's such an interesting mechanic, and I really think it does a great job with that mechanic. So Maidens Quest is $19.99, ages 14 and up. You can probably play it with younger players, but I would recommend 14 and up. And it plays in, if you wanted to play just a single full game, and you wanted to time that out, it would be about 30 minutes. So this one is great. Again, a fantastic price point. The art is really beautiful on this. It's just a really well done game, and I really love it so much. And that is Maidens Quest. And then our last game that we are going to talk about today is another one that I'm very excited about, and one that came out last year. And that is Star Trek Alliance Dominion War Campaign. So this is a starship battle game. I can't talk apparently. Starship battle game set in the Star Trek universe. So in the game, you create your own Federation captain, form a task force, and work together to defeat the Dominion again. Sorry. Over a series of campaign missions. So the game itself, the game box comes with everything for 1 or 2 players need to playing the full campaign, but you can expand that into up to 6 players with multiple copies of the game. So in the game, you're kind of battling against enemy ships that are controlled by the game, while also completing objectives to earn experience points. And then between missions, you spend those experience points to upgrade your ships and advance the overall campaign. So it's a really cool kind of way to do this kind of game, in that it's really telling that full story of your Starfleet captain from, beginning of their career to becoming a legend. And that's really fun. This does use the Star Trek attack wing mechanics, but it's a new format for the game. So the game includes, like I said, automated rules for those enemy ships. So even if you're familiar with attack wing, that's something that you'll definitely want to review. Ministry of Dice, yes, you can play Dominion War Campaign solo. It's a lot of fun solo. I definitely recommend you check it out. This is, like I said, Star Trek Alliance Dominion War Campaign. The game comes with pre-painted ship models as well. So it's something that, if you really like the Star Trek ships, or, you like the attack wing ships, it comes with those models built in. It also has the maneuver dials, just like with Star Trek Attack Wing. And the game really, if you're familiar with Star Trek Deep Space Nine, you are really going to love this game, because it tells us the stories that kind of happened in the background of Deep Space Nine. So this is a great game for fans of that show as well. And you don't have to be a player of Attack Wing to understand this game. You also don't have to be a Star Trek watcher to understand this thing. I've watched Star Trek. I watched a lot of Star Trek. I never felt like, when introducing this to my friends who maybe didn't watch Star Trek as much as me, I never felt like they were having trouble understanding what was going on. And there's a lot of interesting lore. They wrote a lot of the stories out into the game, so that's a really cool also feature of this. So this is so much fun, and it really is an exciting way to spend an evening, just creating your Starfleet captain and bringing them to glory. And what's also cool is if you fail a mission, you don't lose immediately. The game just changes based on your success or your failure. The next mission is going to maybe change depending on what happens. So that's another really nice feature about this game. It's not win or die. It's, if you fail, there's consequences, but you don't automatically lose because you had one bad mission. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as well. So this one is 1 or more players. It's 1 to 2 players in the box, but you can play up to 6, like I said. Ages 14 and up. It plays in 30 or more minutes, and it is $49.99, which of course comes with the painted ships, and it comes with a bunch of other components as well to really give you that Star Trek experience. I mean, look how beautiful this is. Oh gosh, what happened to my camera? I apologize. I don't know when this happened on the side here. Sorry about that. But with that, without any kind of further ado, I appreciate you so much for tuning in today. Fixed that. Cool. Sorry about that, y'all. But that is my 5 favorite soloable WizKids games. I think these games are all fabulous, and if you are someone who is really interested in solo gameplay, these games are all perfect choices. So we talked about Mage Knight Ultimate Edition, we talked about Dungeons & Dragons Adventure System board games, we talked about Super Skill Pinball, we talked about Maidens Quest, and of course we talked about Star Trek Alliance Dominion War Campaign. I recommend them all. But with that, thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Be sure to tune in to Model Behavior tomorrow when I will be unboxing some of our unpainted Critical Role miniatures. So definitely check those out. But with that, I hope you have a great day. I hope you stay safe. I hope you stay healthy. I love you. WizKids loves you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.